Yes, education is elevation and getting right into it. I think that we have too many silo conversations between black people, especially black people that express their genders differently and black people that, you know what I'm saying, make that thing stand up or get wet differently. um, in this conversation, you know, about the unlikely throuple, a lot of people have been asking me about what we're gonna be doing in Atlanta, what we're gonna be doing in DC, what we're gonna be doing in Houston. So I brought my co-host on with me, you know what I'm saying, for us to have a nice little conversation, you know what I'm saying, about what they should expect when they're getting these tickets for DC, Houston, and Atlanta. Atlanta being first. And before we get in there, though, I'm gonna give them a little ski taste of a little clip, and then we're gonna jump right into it. We good with that?
Let's do it.
I'm good.
Get social capital off of this is
See.
something being very critical of. It's people that are able to get social capital off of denying the humanity of trans women, but there's also a lot of non-trans people that's able to gain a lot of capital and clout by talking about the humanity of trans people. So it's something that I feel like we got to grapple with, especially in this space, because we know the visibility is needed, but we also know that sometimes that double-edged sword, the visibility, allows people to take somebody else's pain and suffering and be like, trans women are women. 10 million followers is like, damn, you ain't even trans. So I get it, you know what I'm saying?
But ain't that's what happened to you though?
I can take that. I can take that.
Unlikely Throuple.
Ooh, as you can see, Hope went there with me, didn't she? Yes, the Unlikely Throuple 3-city tour. We go to Atlanta, DC, and Houston. Tap in with me for tickets, man. We're going to be having crucial conversations that are very intersectional and very thought-provoking.
Can we just talk about this voice that you had at the end of that?
Right.
Like you flirting through the Instagram reels.
Whatever sells the tickets.
Okay, I mean,
Hey,
Whatever
that
sells the
was my radio voice. You know what I'm saying? That was my, you know what I'm saying? That's my radio voice.
your
you know
radio
what I mean?
after dark voice.
I was
Baby.
gonna say, don't make Faith come looking for you. Don't make Faith
No,
come
I don't
looking
want
for
my
you.
baby looking for me at all.
You sounded like you had a couple oysters on that one.
Nah, man. I was just, you know what I'm saying, trying to get people, entice people to come, you know, actually get some of them tickets. Because we know a lot of times, you feel me, our conversations on the internet about sexuality and gender usually be amongst people with the same sexuality and gender. So I was hoping that, you know, us three coming together can, you know, push the envelope a little bit. In critical conversations, sometimes being a little fallacious, sometimes being a little bit of controversial and messy, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, hoping people tap in and that we're able to move the needle. Like Hope saying that, you know, the reason why I got what I got or why I am is because I use trans women. Hurt my feelings.
mean,
you know?
but I think that the consensus or the general consensus amongst a lot of trans women and some queer people in general, because we posted that clip a little earlier, and one of the comments that was on that clip came from an associate of mine, Jerome Trammell. And he says that he feels like a lot of your content is performative, or that it's become performative. Let me not put words, but that it's become performative. And I think that a lot of trans women, myself included, at the beginning of your career, were just like, okay, it's great, it's awesome that we have this visibility, but when is he gonna pass the mic, right? Because it seemed like every other space that we were going to that could have been, you know, for a trans woman was then being gifted to you as this guy who was like settling up and kind of sort of white knighting the situation. And we were just like, where the fuck did he come from? Since when did he become, you know, the end all be all for trans people in advocacy when he just woke up and started advocating for us 2:00 yesterday, to quote Amanda, you know, Seals. So it's just kind of like, for us, it's like, how do you reconcile what that looks like from the people, myself included, who are telling you like, love you, love the way that you spearheaded the conversation, but now how do you step back and give us our power to be able to have those conversations and educate on our own?
I think for me, just being able to be transparent and take criticisms about how I take up space or about how I shouldn't take up space is something that I try to just do and really be present on. But also, I think that because I talk about so many intersectional issues, I try to be mindful of not being defensive, because it's something that I hear from multiple different organizations or multiple different communities that are not just straight and black, because my work is so intersectional. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it's just really thinking about how can I tag different voices in once I have a space. You feel me? I think like doing the Unlikely Throuple is, in my mind, is something that does that. But also, I feel like on my platform, being able to share the stories of trans women, talking for trans women, talking about trans women, being able to amplify and proliferate those messages that's made by trans women for trans women, and not just somebody that's coming in to say trans women. You know what I'm saying? Quote unquote, here goes the straight cis guy that knows all the buzzwords to say. So now we're going to allow for him to, you know what I'm saying, take up all the space. I do want to apologize for the opportunities that I've gotten that you feel like should have went to a trans person, because I was very ignorant to me doing me and that taken away from somebody. You know what I'm saying? But I think that in being critical of being an ally, activist, you know what I'm saying, accomplice, you feel me, or whatever you want to call it, I think having that reflectiveness nature and being able to have meaningful conversation with the demographics you claim to be advocating for is very important. And for me, that's how I think about doing it. Having conversations with you, really being able to listen to you, but also having conversations with other trans people that are not as visible as you, or that don't have as big as a platform as you, or not as, you know what I'm saying, as proximity and close to me as I am, you know what I'm saying, being able to really do different things. And I feel like I try to do that, but I think that there's always more that can be done. And I think that that's the reason why I feel like us being together is something good. I know that a lot of times some straight people that feel like because they can be criticized, they shouldn't do nothing at all. And I hope that I can be an example that show that there's always some way you can move forward, but there's always some criticisms to take in to make sure that your advocacy is the best it can be.
You know, I like the idea of you, and I really support you saying that, because I feel like the first time that like some cisgender, because it's not just heterosexual, like it's just people who are not trans. Oftentimes, like when we have these conversations, the first time a trans person says, no, you did that wrong, a person will use that as an excuse to be like, well, fuck it, I'm not doing, you know, like, it's just like, as soon as a person is just like, well, actually, no, like, you know. And so I love the fact that you're saying, like, actually, I'm okay with the idea of being told that, like, I didn't necessarily, like, do that right. Or maybe it was received in the wrong way, without you being like, okay, well, that's the reason I don't advocate for you motherfuckers anyway. Like, you know, like, whatever. Because to me, I just feel like if you are willing to jump ship at the first sign of being told that you did something wrong, you really weren't doing it for the right reasons anyway. And you were looking for an excuse to then turn around and weaponize it.
But there's a lot of gay men, not to full focus, but there's a lot of gay men who have that same fucked up mindset that I tried it didn't work, or I did something wrong, and then they want to throw up their hands and go back to Bulldogs or wherever they came from, as if there is not opportunity to grow. And what I've had to figure out for myself in this journey is misogyny, because oftentimes there are women of trans experience that are the one calling us in. And so then the idea that this woman is checking me, a man, and then on top of that fucked up ideology is this trans woman who, you know, whatever fucked up kind of thinking you got about that, then on top of that, they the one checking me. That messes with manhood, whatever kind of masculinity that a lot of people got. And so my question for you, Hope, is in those instances, what do we do? Like what's the solution here?
Yeah, and before you answer that, because to add to that, I think what Jay is asking. So my genuine question to like a Jerome Tremere would be, in the instances where you think that I am performative, in what ways could I show you that either A, I'm following through with what I told you I was doing, or B, I'm not performative? Like, in what ways can cisgender people specifically in this instance do that? And I know he's talking about more like, hey, anytime conscious George straight ass start talking about anything queer, trans, I think it's performative. My question would be, how do I show up in a way where you don't think it's performative?
I think that that's a good question for like a Jerome, but I think that if I can answer that question like fully and incorporate it with Jay's answer, I think it goes back to the inception of this project, right? We were all sitting at a table in Seattle. Jay and I were having a conversation that one of the folks were like privy to. And Jay and I were having a conversation about what Jay then coined as the big idea. But a large part of this even like becoming a thing was me saying like, oh, we should do this, that, and the third. And somebody overheard that. And then Jay was like, okay, cool. But Hope just got through saying that. Like, I just want y'all to know, like, Hope said that. And everybody at the table paid it, right? And this happened twice. It was one night, and then after Jay presented the idea in his words, again, like the folks at the table had to be reminded, like, but Hope said this and y'all paid it dust, right? And so that talks to the misogyny that Jay was talking about, because even though I was at the table, I came up with this like
at a
idea,
literal table,
the literal table, right? The literal table, having this idea, having this conversation, and being able to say something out loud, but then having myself be looked over until a man. And this is what I tell people all the time too, about like dismissing the masculinity and the manhood of gay men, because regardless of the fact that Jay is gay and sometimes can be like leaning on the side of more feminine, it's
with
one
my
of
green
those
nails.
with green nails, right?
Yay!
But it's one of those things where it's like, even still, his masculinity trumped me as a woman saying like, okay, this is a great idea. How about we run with it twice, back to back, right? And I think that when we think about the way that people look at trans women, there's this one ideation that says y'all are not woman enough to be a part of this women's conversation, X, Y, and Z. But then there's another ideation that says you're a woman, stay in a woman's place, and women are not often heard, right? And me being trans does not take away from the fact that when a person wants to overlook me or not hear what I have to say, they put me back in that woman box. But when a person wants to invalidate my experience, now I'm a man again, you know? And I think that those are things that we have to tackle on both ends of that spectrum. Because to your point, Lee, there's a marginalized community of people that don't often get a chance to tell their story. When we do tell our stories, people tell us that we're long-winded or that it's stupid or that they don't understand. And so therefore they don't have to listen. And then you come in like the white knight saying like, hey, let me tell y'all about why this is important. And now all of a sudden everybody's like, oh my God, I get it. But there were 50 trans women that said that before him. And y'all hopped in the comments and told them to shut up. So it's either y'all want to learn about the community and what we go through, or y'all want to have it packaged in a way that makes you comfortable. And I think that to that effect, as Black people, we know what the fuck that's like when we sit and talking to white people, and it takes the light-skinned white adjacent person in the room, or it takes the, for lack of a better word, Oreo Black person in the room to come in and say, well, actually, what I think was meant to be, like, I don't need a translator, you know?
Yeah,
I said what I said.
I said what the fuck I said.
But also to your point, Lee, I think that the hard part about social media just in general is you can stand for the people every goddamn day. And people are only going to judge you based on the last post that they saw. Like, I know that you rock with the girls. I hope knows that you rock with the girls. But every time you pop up in my timeline, it feels like brand spanking new. And so it's one thing to like rock for the girls and show up at the march and say the things and give space and create the seat and all the things. But then, the girl's going to be in the comments talking about whatever they're going to talk about and dismiss your body of work because all they're judging you on is this one post or one conversation,
man. I've been
one
going to
live.
therapy, man. Therapy been working out good for me. Shout out to the therapist. We've been talking about self-worth and being enough. And what my therapists know is the conversation about how my work impacts me and how the perception of my work impacts my psyche and me feeling like my self-worth and feeling like my value. And what I know is that in doing this, I got to always prioritize purpose over popularity, because a lot of times we start talking about like performativity or performances or being performative. To me, those are usually notions around popularity. You know what I'm saying? You're popular for something I think you perform, or you show up this way, so therefore your visit. Like, to me, that's all around those things. For me, I try to always prioritize the purpose of a popularity, because the purpose of what I'm doing to work for is what able to got me all this invisibility, or what got me the popularity, quote unquote. But also at the end of the day, that's all it's gonna be about. It's gonna all be about what the purpose I'm doing. And for me, it's like being mindful that when I talk about Palestine or Israel, people feel like, man, you talk too much about that. You're only famous for that, or you're only visible because of that. I start talking about women's issues. I'm talking about misogyny and patriarchy. It would feel like, man, you're only famous because you know this, or you know what I'm saying? I start talking about racism. Man, you're only famous because you make Black people victims. I have to be very mindful and remind myself of my own self-worth and think about the purpose that I'm doing it, and really try to prioritize that over popularity. Because what I know is that if I define myself and my work too much based off of the outside, my work not only gonna cease to exist, it's gonna slowly deteriorate, and it's gonna make it where the worker me gonna start feeling this type of way. You know what I'm saying? So I try to just show up very authentically and show up in a way where I'm like I'm cool with criticisms and try to take on the criticism in a way where how can I be better? Because ultimately I do believe that if some of us ain't free, then none of us ain't free. And I do know that it's more likely for the homies or more likely for a lot of cisgender straight people to listen to me more than like to listening to the gay black man or to the trans black woman, or I'm saying the black trans woman. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, because I know that, I try to be mindful of not speaking over, but I always try to speak up. You know what I'm saying? And I think that what I've been mindful of, I feel like now I want to give white folks the understanding on, is that I've been fighting the self-victimization in this conversation. And I recognize that's how white folks, you know what I'm saying, respond when they being critical, people being critical of they, I'm saying, of how they, you feel me, showing up as an accomplice. Because I know it's like, hey, when I talk about transness or queerness or gayness, niggas is mad.
As fuck.
You know what I'm saying?
All the time.
Like, not only,
all of the
only
niggas
mad,
is
it's
mad.
like, what? I can show, if I showed you my analytics right now, I show y'all my analytics right now that every time I talk about transness, queerness, there is a like a significant dip in people that unfollow. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about every single time, going back to when I had 10,000 followers all the way now, I got 500,000 on Instagram, or even thinking about TikTok. Every time I talk about gender, sexuality, unfollow. So it always puts me in a very interesting position that I'm fighting against not being performative, but I'm also fighting like, man, y'all gotta recognize this humanity, but also fighting with like, what shit you talking about? You ain't talking enough about Marcellus Williams. You talk more about them trans women and them Palestinians than you did about this. And it's just like that's what I'm up against. But I have to remind myself of the self-worth and it being like, man, the purpose is the purpose, fam, and that popularity shit, you gotta let it go.
You know what's really interesting is I'm looking at one of the comments and it says that like people don't ask because they get attacked when they just ask a question. And I really appreciate that. But it's one of those things where I tell people all the time, you think that when you ask that that's the first time that that person has been asked that question, right? Again, if we bring this down to something that like a lot of us can like be on a communal level about, like Black people, it's not the first time that a white person has ever asked us, well, how can I be a better ally, right? So imagine me as a Black trans woman having to navigate both racism and transmisia, right? The idea that you're over here like, well, how do you know what it feels like to be a woman? And then it's not what you ask, it's the way that you ask, right?
Oh God, into it like,
you
ooh,
know,
that sound like a diss.
So it's one of them things where it's like, bruh, like I'm not upset or I don't have an attitude with you. One, I have an attitude with the fact that like I've had to answer this question, especially if you're a person like me who's in the spotlight. You had to answer this question 11 million times and probably 60 times that day. And so by the time I get asked for the 61st time and I'm sitting here looking like you playing in my face, right? And we're not taking into account that people have full like lives outside of you. So by the time you ask this question, and especially if you come, which a lot of people do, if we gonna be honest, y'all are not coming and saying like, okay, so I really am having a tough time understanding this. Could you explain to me like what being a woman feels like for you? Y'all coming at us with the, I already have the answer tone. How you know what it feels like to be a woman? You know what I'm saying? And so by the time a person jumps back at you on the 61st response, it's like, what the fuck you mean? Like, because a person doesn't want to have to explain their humanity in order for you to be okay. It's okay that you don't understand it. It's okay that you don't get it. It's okay that it's not for you. What's not okay is for you to make it your personality to be rude to me because you don't understand it. And that's where we lose each other.
Well, because hey, listen, I've been asked the question, Jay. So you saying this for trans people? How can they say they feel like something they ain't never experienced? Like if you ain't never been a woman or a man, how can you know what a man or a woman feel like if you ain't that? And it's just like,
you know, the interesting thing is, and this is why the whole content creator atmosphere does not fit my life, because the deepest parts of my psyche are like, oh, fuck that motherfucker. Let me move on about my life. Like, I'm not in the business of like, now, great enough, I am not trans, so I don't, I want to be an ally and I have to do my own journey about becoming a better ally for trans people. But when it comes to queer issues or being a gay man in general, I'm not in the mind of let me educate Joe Schmo barbershop owner straight person about about what it means to be a gay man so that he can understand me. Nigga, cut my hair and leave me the fuck alone.
Right.
And in my head, that's why when you said you don't have to understand me for me to matter, for me to be a human being, for me to have a whole life and experience and all that, that absolutely resonated with me, because I'm like, none of these niggas got to understand a goddamn thing about. Can I cuss on here?
Yeah.
Oh, none of these
Not
motherfuckers
to
got to
excuse
understand
my
a
language
goddamn
after he
thing
didn't
about
cuss
me.
5-6
You're
Excuse
times.
my
right.
Look at
language.
him. Not to, can I
Excuse
cuss
my
on here?
language. Y'all get me
Excuse my
fired up now.
language.
But you don't have to understand anything about me for me to just be myself. Like, we can interact where we interact. What I don't care for, what I don't have any patience for, is people who want to inflate these very innocuous exchanges as opportunities for them to get woke. Like, if you cutting my hair, I'm not going to turn this into a TED talk about coming out and expression and sexual identity and all of that other bullshit. Nigga, I'm black as hell. I'm a gay man. I like dudes with dicks. That's it.
So,
Like, that's
so,
all
so,
you
so,
need.
so what
You
you saying? The
you
barber to
may not
ask you.
even
So,
need
are
to
you
know
a
any of that
pitcher or are
about
you a
me.
catcher? You
Right.
ever been asked that? Are you a pitcher or are you a catcher, Jay?
I am. It depends on who's asking and when.
Oh
Okay.
shit!
If you ask me after a certain hour, then I'm definitely a pitcher. If you get at me in the morning, I can prepare to catch later. Y'all didn't think I would
This
answer
what I
that.
get for asking for being funny. Because now I'm thinking
You
like,
have not, because you asked not, Lee. You have
Look,
not, because
look
you
here,
asked
that
not.
part. You know what's really interesting to me though is like this whole cis conversation. There's this idea of like, well, why
I
we
hate
got to
it.
use cis?
I hate it. I hate it so much. Too.
Like, let's be very clear. Trans people would rather not use prefixes at all. We would rather just be men and women, right? There's a need to like clarify things or make things a thing because people want to put a scarlet letter on us, right? And I think that to an extent, in certain spaces, that's necessary. When I go to the doctor, my doctor needs to know that I am transgender because my doctor has to be able to do what they do for the sake of biology, as y'all love to throw up, and you know, in terms to be able to treat me if I go to the doctor. If we sit in the hair store or if we're just having a general conversation about life, you don't need to know that I'm trans because we sitting here talking about noodles and the fact that they changed Aunt Jemima to Pearl Milling Company. Like we
But you
don't
have
we
to
don't need to
disclose.
have that.
But you have
You
to
know?
disclose, or you tricked me into this conversation about Aunt Jemima. Because if I know you was trans, I want to talk to your ass in the first place.
But and that's the thing. It's not the idea that like I've learned that it's not about y'all being tricked with the idea of some sort of romantic thing. Y'all don't like being tricked into being respectful. Y'all don't like being tricked into the ideation of treating people like people. Because had you known I was trans, instead of having a conversation with me, y'all would have, you know, Bluetoothed each other and decided to isolate me so that I didn't have the Black woman experience in this Black woman salon. But because you didn't know that, you treated me with grace, you treated me with kindness. We all laughed and got our roller sets and left. But it's this idea, it's this notion that y'all don't think that we understand that what you're really saying when a lot of you say like, oh, you tricked me, is you didn't give me the opportunity to treat you like shit.
Definitely. And I think that's where when you and Jay was talking about like, man, you don't have to understand me to still respect me type shit. I think that's where I'm very empathetic with my cis privilege. And cis, for people that's watching, it just means that I identify with the gender that I was assigned at birth. So if you were assigned at birth to gender of female, you identify as female, that means you are a cisgender female. You're a cisgender woman. If you are identified at birth as boy, as male, and you identify as boy, as male, you a cisgender boy, male. All it means is that you identify with the gender that you were assigned at birth. When they was talking though about being respected, though people don't understand, I feel like it made me think about how so many people in my hometown, Bryan, Texas, I'm from the country, you feel me? And a lot of people that say they respect me and that they love me, they are very upfront about it, man. I don't agree with everything you say, but I respect you. I appreciate you. Or man, I don't agree with everything you do, but I respect you and I love you and I'm proud of you. And just recognizing that there are other people that don't get that, you know what I'm saying, or that don't get that experience. You know what I'm saying? Don't get that type of benefit of the doubt. Like, you know what? I respect you. Even though I don't understand what you got going on, I respect you. And then when y'all were talking, I was just thinking of all the times I've basically been told the opposite damn near, but recognizing that's because how I'm positioned in my masculinity and my sexuality and making it where I'm the default. So people are more likely to be like, man, you cool, even though I don't like that gay shit you be on, or that trans shit you on, I don't like that, but nigga, you cool with me. You know what I'm saying? I think that's the reason why my follows go up and down. I make an
But see,
amazing analysis.
here's the gotcha. Here's the gotcha about all of that. That always bakes my noodle about this conversation. Now, granted enough, I get that in these random exchanges, I am me, you can be you. But as a cis person, every step I make is informed by the fact that I am Black, I am gay, and I'm a man. Right. Every step I take, I live in the intersection of all those things. And so my question for you, Hope, is if your gender identity is as ingrained in you as mine is in me, then that would mean that every step you take is informed by the fact that you are equal parts Black and Latina, female and transgender, right? So wouldn't I have to deal with you, address you, connect with you at the intersection of all those things? Or are you saying, well, some of those are more important than others?
So there's a correction. Me personally, my transness does not include the label of identifying as female because I'm not, right? I think that there's just certain things that I'm not going to like label myself as because anatomically I am not female. Now, socially, I am a woman, right? Like I think that those are the things that people understand, but also there's a difference in what I'm saying and what I've heard a lot of other trans women say. What I'm not saying that you get a free pass to not treat me in the way that you treat every other person that identifies and maneuvers through this world as a woman. What I am simply saying is when we have to go to the doctor in places where it matters, right? I am not going to sit up here and argue back and forth with my doctor about being a female when they have to do a check for my prostate, right? Like I'm not about to go back and forth with my doctor when they ask me when my last cycle was. And instead of just being like, hey, I'm trans, I'm going to lie to these people and make up a cycle that I've never had in my life. That is what I'm saying. Like I don't identify as female for those reasons because as it pertains usually and only to my health, I need to be feeling good and operating under a certain, moniker more than I need to be feeling, affirmed in my transness. Mm-hmm. But when it comes down to like navigating the world, I am navigated and people do operate around me the way that they would operate around any other woman. When I go to the gas station, if there's a man coming out or a man going in front of me, the door is held. People don't look at me and say, oh, sir, would you like me to move? Or, oh, sir, would you like me to X, Y, and Z? It's only when you come to social media that people want to be big and bold and bad and be keyboard warriors and talk about all of the things. But I think...
Okay, got it.
But like, I think for me, all of those things do populate at the same time. Because when white men want to be offensive, they don't say, oh, you tranny ass bitch. And I understand and recognize that that's a part of my cis assumability. But they say, oh, you nigga bitch. Oh, you black bitch. You know, whatever. Like, they don't look at me as this, thing, whatever. And so for me, and I think for anybody who is cis assumed, all of those things have to operate at the same time because if you don't know, you don't know, and you're going to treat me that way. So why does knowing that I'm trans anchor that and not all the other things? Because I could just be a horrible bitch. Why can't I just be a horrible trans? Like, why do I have to why does my transness have to sit at the top of that? I could just be a horrible bitch.
Say, damn. Well, I don't know what the response is to that. Listen, man, I feel like a lot of people believe that when you defy the God-given anatomical biology you was given by the creators, that you are being deviant. And I think that if we could just free ourselves from what colonialism has taught us about gender and sexuality and what white supremacy has taught us about sexuality and gender, I think that we would be able to recognize the humanity more in people in our community. Instead, we got people that are more likely to side with white supremacists than side with some drag queens in the hood, or side with some trans women in the hood, or side with some, which brings me to
trans women in Washington, D.C. marching up and down 6th Pennsylvania Avenue. Like,
yeah. But my question for you, Jay. So in having this conversation, you know what I'm saying, and talking about being, black and being gay and being man.
I'm just saying that popped up to me. But go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What is something that you would like for straight black men to know in terms of misconceptions about gay black men?
That I want straight black men to know about misconceptions about gay black men. I think, well, I'll just talk from in my life
In your life, in his life.
because now that I've gained weight, people tell me that I appear straight-ish until I open my mouth. I'm a bigger dude, I'm thick, I go to the gym, all of that, but I have green fingernails. And the question I get now more than ever, it different than when I was skinny and at a twink, is, well, are you the boy or the girl? I'm a nigga, like all day, every day, black as hell, man, and whatnot. And so the only thing, and I think Hope kind of alluded to this, and I'll just put kind of my cis gay hat on, cis gay spin on it, is that there are no aspects of your life, you individual person, whether you are gay, straight, black, anybody, there are no aspects of your life that you can apply to my life. I identify as I identify. I am who I am. I am a man. Regardless of what you think that to mean for you, I am still a man. I call myself a man. I identify as a man. I may be attracted to men, and that's something for you to understand and grapple with on your own time. But there's no template for any aspect of this. Like, what I know gender to be evolves every single day when I meet and am educated by people who have a different perspective than I am. What I know my manliness to be evolves every single day. So don't try to apply your whatever kind of definitions to my life and then rock with that. Because as Hope was saying earlier, is the issue isn't you want to come get educated about things that you don't know. The issue is you got a definition and answer in your head about what you think I am, and you want to figure out if I fit into it. And I'm not going to anytime ever. There are gay people that I don't even understand, and I'm gay as Christmas.
But you know what's really interesting to me about that is that, like, folks will ascribe things like, oh, he a sissy, or he's a girl, or he's feminine, or he's that, or he's this. The second that you transition, all of a sudden that goes away, and now you're the most manly thing ever. But when you were a man who was operating as a man, you just had feminine tendencies. It was all, you were so masculine. You were all of the things. And I think that people take away.
I ain't never thought of it that way. That's so fucking right.
Of course. Yeah. Like, my thing is, a lot of the girls that I hung out with in high school had no problem. Oh, she, her, girl. I'm just so comfortable with you. And I'm sure you as a gay
now, but then she transitions to be who she knows herself to be, and all of a sudden she a linebacker.
He
a linebacker.
Boy. And I think for you,
girl, you just fucked me up with that, girl.
Yeah, look, people don't hear. And I think even when, what's really interesting to me about this conversation, because like I'm still actively like in the comments, and somebody said like, but I'm not gonna, I'm never gonna side with the gay agenda. And what's really funny to me about this is, what that comment says to me is that you fucking with what we saying. And it's making sense to you, but you've been so programmed and it's been so ingrained in you that you're pissed that you're agreeing and that you're finding yourself having humanity for a group of people who has done nothing wrong to you. I ask the people who say things like, oh, I'm not fucking with the gay agenda, I don't give a fuck how much sense it make. Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Yes. And with that being said, because we got to go for a meeting that we late to already, make sure y'all get y'all tickets, man. The link is in the bio, really in all our bios and all the social media platforms. I'll be sure to put a link in the comment section.
How many people watching? How many people watching?
Right now, we got 846 people.
846 people. That means we can sell out these shows right now.
Y'all can sell out all the shows right this second.
Come see me, and I have my nails will be a different color, and I might wear a little see-through something.
Atlanta's gonna be a Halloween show too, so y'all come in y'all costumes, because we definitely we showing up in costumes on the 24th. So y'all come in y'all costumes, okay?
Yes. I am going to be a butch queen.
A butcher.
Yes, y'all. Hey, October 24th,
queen.
Atlanta. We out.